Dara Star Tucker, welcome to Against All Enemies. Good to talk to you again. When I first saw this viral music video sensation, Men North of Richmond, I knew I had to talk to you because instantly something seemed off about it, and I wasn't sure what it was. Then I read the lyrics and realized this is a dog whistle. And then I read the comments and I thought, oh no, this is going to get bad. Before I get your take, I want to roll a short clip of it for the audience. Here it is.
I wish politicians would look out for minors, and not just minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground, 'cause all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. Lord, it's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men north of Richmond.
Okay, I think you're probably seeing some of what I'm seeing in that screed, supposedly a working class anthem, but it has so much in there that I don't think most people are picking up on. What are you seeing?
Well, it's kind of funny, almost in the same way that the Jason Aldean video seemed, it was okay for a minute. We got through the first verse and we got through the, part of the chorus, and then things suddenly start to go south. Things suddenly start to reveal themselves. We realize that we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So we're in some different territory. And when he starts kind of going into the diatribe about, we're talking about working class people and, it's coal miners. And this is, really hearkening back to the Appalachian tradition of like folk songs and really traditional music that has expressed the frustrations of a downtrodden group of people, legitimately historically downtrodden group of people. There's real poverty there and really something for them to complain about legitimately. But then we get to the second verse, and suddenly we are making references to essentially to Pizzagate and to some QAnon conspiracy theories about politicians supposedly being entangled in child sex trafficking, and people should be more concerned about MINERS, minors, versus MINORS, minors.
Minors on islands. I mean, it's
it's as clear as to. So this, there was a movie that came out recently that really kind of stoked a lot of those fires. I'm trying to remember what the name of it is.
Sound of Freedom.
Yes, Sound of Freedom. Jim Caviezel film. And so, this sort of phony Save the Children movement where we're somehow ignoring all of the child predators and groomers who have been in the church for years and who continue to be protected. But we're more concerned about the conspiracy theories around how this is possibly some left-wing, centered issue. And so, that's kind of the first indication that something's awry, something's amiss. And then, a random reference to supposedly overweight people, overweight people being the greatest recipients of welfare, and you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds. And I'm like, what in the world? How did we get here? I thought this was a working man's anthem. And suddenly now we're, it's just kind of leaning into some of the worst right-wing talking points that are really not founded in reality. because in fact, people from the demographic that the song represents are some of the greatest recipients of welfare. And so
Indeed.
what do you do with that?
It's a conveniently overlooked fact almost every time the right talks about welfare and the supposed scourge of welfare scams, which is just a fraction of the total welfare paid out.
Yeah.
The vast majority of it goes to, as you said, the demographic that this artist is trying to uplift and celebrate.
Right.
But what really gets me about it, and I think the thing that set me off initially before I got into the Epstein references and all of that, was the idea that a protest song about the working class struggle coming from the right has to victimize another marginalized group. And it made me think of the protest songs on the left that I can't think of a single example that does that. I think about, Woody and Arlo. I mean, I think about all of them. I put Springsteen in that category. Born in the USA, he's talking about the struggles of coming back from Vietnam, and the struggle was with the VA or with the factory that's shutting down. It's not with poor overweight people, right? That's how it's set up in this song. That's a tonal shift.
Yeah, and I think it's indicative of kind of where we are as a nation right now. It's really hard to say that there is a genuine populist movement afoot, because really we're really embroiled more so in a culture war. That really is, as you said, pitting these marginalized groups against one another. And that's just it's a different territory than what existed in the days of Woody Guthrie or Arlo. I mean, we still have troubadours like Jason Isbell, I think, who are doing an incredible job of speaking for the working man, working class people. But then you have this other element that has crept in, that has made its way in, that it just kind of saddens you, because the song itself, I would say, is much more musically viable and leans in much more to the tradition, the folk tradition, than that ridiculous Jason Isbell song, in my opinion. The ridiculous Jason Isbell song, or the new John Rich song that I've heard just a little snippet of very recently. So, you can, when you first hear it, it's like, okay, we're in a musically kind of viable territory, but then just, you can feel a lot of that poison start to creep in. And it's just so disheartening once you realize what's going on.
Hi, Burn the Boats fans. I want to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor for today's show, Rhone. Men's closets are long overdue for a radical reinvention, and Rhone has stepped up to the challenge. Rhone's commuter collection represents the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible clothes I've ever found. Rhone makes it so easy to get ready for any occasion. The commuter collection offers the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, and polos. Rhone's comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy whatever life throws your way, from your commute to work to weekends at the kids' ball games. Looking good is easy with Rhone's wrinkle release technology, which makes wrinkles magically disappear, seriously, as you wear the products. It's really that easy. I don't have time between work and family and everything in between to worry about dry cleaning or ironing. With Rhone, I don't have to. I just wear and go. And I feel great doing it. Even after a long day, Rhone feels clean and new and just as comfortable as the moment I put it on. You got to try it out. Head to rhone.com/boats and use promo code BOATS to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to rhone.com/boats and use code BOATS. Trust me, Rhone makes choosing what to wear not just easy, but classy and comfortable. That's rhone.com/boats. I actually love the setup. I love the outdoor studio. I love the authenticity of it, the simplicity of it. It's the message that I think is doing real damage. And I love your thoughts on why the right seems to love it so much. Matt Walsh said this kind of off the cuff on his show. He said, the truth is that guys like Anthony, the musician, they work all day to provide for themselves and their own families. They're not fans of the fact that their money is being taken from them. Food is being taken out of their children's mouths in order to prop up this system of entitlements that really functions as nothing more than a vote buying scheme for Democrats. I think Matt Walsh speaks for a lot of the right and their reaction to this song.
I think it speaks, and I saw that Marjorie Taylor Greene, because you sent me the Twitter link initially for the song, Marjorie Taylor Greene had commented, "Oh, this is just the anthem of my constituents," and it just speaks to a particular type of fantasy that the right has about themselves and what they actually stand for. It's a canonizing, or it's a fantastical perception that they have of themselves, which is not really rooted in reality for the majority of them. I don't know what the songwriter's background is specifically, but to say that the majority of the folks who are now uplifting and supporting the person who is the front runner on the right, on the Republican side, to say that the majority of the people who are supporting Donald Trump fall into this category of people who are just fighting day to day to make ends meet, and the tax man is taking all of our dollars out of our pockets. To say that the majority of them fall into that category, I think is completely erroneous. It feeds into a fantasy that the right have about themselves, the sort of disaffected working class person. Those are not, by and large, the folks that are uplifting and supporting the MAGA movement. I mean, Donald Trump is raising a whole lot of money for his legal fees off of folks who are very much in support of him and have plenty of money to back up their support. I mean, we've seen what were like the boat parades that were happening, and who are these people that can afford to own yachts and giant trucks, going down the streets and things with these huge flags, waving the trucks that were impeding traffic, a couple of years ago, right around the time the election was being protested. And I'm like, these are people with money. A lot of these folks, they are not, disaffected coal miners. That's generally not what we're dealing with here. So the majority of folks, I think, propping up this movement are really not very closely associated with the demographic that this song references.
Well, and the idea that Trump is the champion of the working class. I mean, this is well-trod territory, but in the context of like the taxman reference in this song, the guy paid $750 in taxes, right? We know that now. I mean, who's cheating who here?
Yeah, it's amazing how someone who represents really the antithesis of what historically this marginalized, and I can legitimately say that the Appalachian community, which is mostly what's being referenced here, they do represent an historically marginalized community in this country. But to say that their hero or the person that represents their cause is this man, I think it's totally divorced from reality, and it has never made sense to me, and I don't think it ever will.
There's another thing that you really kind of have to go deep into this to make sense of. It's the broad brush attack on politicians writ large. It is so easy to do, but it really bothers me. It worries me as well, because it is a kind of both sidesism that excuses not participating in the political process, or saying that they're all just the same. And when I heard the refrain, "Rich men north of Richmond," I thought about the contrast between my two senators, J.D. Vance, investment banker guy, who should be the standard bearer for these people, right? I mean, from Appalachia, pulled himself up and is rolling in billionaires' money, versus Sherrod Brown, who is not a rich man north of Richmond. Right? This guy is in public service, has been in public service his whole life. He didn't go the hedge fund route like J.D. Vance did. And I just worry that the ease with which we attack our political public servants is really corrosive. And it's part of the reason we have such terrible political public servants Not all of them. Sherrod Brown is
Mhm.
carrying the torch for a lot of us, but it's how we get people like J.D. Vance.
Mhm. Now, J.D. Vance is the person that wrote Hillbilly Elegy, is he not?
He
He
is.
is.
He is. Yale Law
And
School guy. He was a year, I think, ahead of me there. And, there was a lot of hope for him when
yeah,
that book came out that he was going
yeah.
to be like the Trump whisperer, right?
Right,
But then he
right.
gets on the Peter Thiel bandwagon and just goes off the edge. Full
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
MAGA, ultra MAGA Trumper.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and this song reminded me a lot of what I know because I haven't read that full book yet, but it reminded me a lot of that book. When I first heard it, I thought, "Oh, he's speaking to this again, this disaffected community that, hey, these are the forgotten people. These are the ones that we have, that have been left somewhere along the way, and we need to, pay attention to this group of folks whose whole way of life has been decimated by capitalism." And you think, yeah, oh, he's going to end up just being this voice of reason. And it's kind of it much like the song. His political career has just descended off into just an embankment that it's really disappointing to witness. I'm really sad to see what has happened with him,
yeah.
with JD Vance
Well,
specifically.
it's disappointing for you. It is crushing for us in Ohio because we have to live with them and the shame of having elected him. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll deal
Yeah.
with that in 4 more years.
Hmm.
Since I have an actual super talented musician, I would love your take on the lyricism and the musicality, because my judgment is colored by like my dislike of the political message. Actually really like his voice. The lyricism seems a little bit I guess lazy. There's literally 4
Yeah.
lines of verse and then he just repeats himself again and
Right.
again and again. I guess that's emblematic of the complaint itself, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to get into this and whether my opinion on that would even be warranted, needed, required. But I'm always willing to give my opinion on music. And yeah, I think his delivery, his vocal delivery, because I'm a vocalist, and that's generally what stands out to me initially. His vocal delivery felt a little bit forced. I liked where he was coming from, and I feel like what I'm listening to is someone he's got a real gift, but he's just inexperienced with it, and he's still kind of trying to find that creative voice. And so, if the song had kind of stayed on track, I could imagine someone like, NPR's Tiny Desk or whatever picking him up, because he really, there's a rawness there that we don't really hear a whole lot these days, which I think is part of what stands out to people. But the lyricism, I completely agree with you. I feel like it could have gone somewhere there. There could have been poetry there, and obviously he has some heroes, like Dylan possibly, and Woody Guthrie, and some others. We all know who the primary folks are that he's pulling from, and I hear some Jason Isbell in his voice as well. But yeah, I feel like it very much just stopped short of any real poeticism, and there was some overly kind of simplistic rhyming schemes going on. It really was. It fell quite short of what it possibly could have been. Lyrically, even presenting the message that it still was pretty remedial in places, but still had some hints of some potential brilliance, I guess, much like his voice.
Well, I love your take, love your perspective on all of it. Thanks so much. Let's do this again soon.
Absolutely, Ken. I've enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for having me.